we won't use any kind of sophisticated libraries or sophisticated editors or anything like that. And the reason is I want everybody to learn these basics and not require any prerequisite knowledge. So we are just going to write some basic HTML code. And let's put a title for the page. Also, this course is partially about how to write code, so focus is going to be on how to write good code. So that's one of the things that you need to learn here. Okay, so we have a title, and we're going to have also a body. And in the body, let's just write a div with an ID of output, and inside this div we are going to write something like whatever angles we are going to read from the mobile phone. So it's just a way to see the output in the browser. Okay, so at the moment the page is simple. I'm going to save the file and refresh the page here, and you can see that the title here changed to orientation. So it's basically the only thing that we see because this div is empty at the moment. So now we will go back into the head section and start to write some JavaScript. Usually JavaScript is written in a separate file. So you put all the JavaScript in a JS file, and here you just link to them. But this is going to be a toy example, so it's easier to work from the same file here. And here we need to add a listener to the document, but to the window is one way to do it. And this listener is going to be for device orientation. Now, this listener was not available before HTML5, if I remember right. So if you try this on a very, very old browser, which probably nobody has, it's not going to work. So we wrote now an event listener for the device orientation here, and we say that when the device orientation changes, call a function called handle orientation, which we don't have yet. So now this one takes a parameter, this kind of event here, and we could, for example, maybe we go through the properties of this event and we just put them into the output. Yeah, let's do that. So we have now the div. We gave it the name of output. And in this output, I want to put the properties of this event. So I'm going to make another variable properties. It's going to be a string. That's what we work with inside the div. And we are going to go through the properties. So and I'm going to write the name of the property. I will separate it by this column, and then we are going to put the value of the property. And this BR is just a new line in HTML. So after we cumulate these different properties, we put them in the HTML content of the output. Like that. So now we should see something if I save this file, and assuming we don't have any errors. Okay, nothing here. I is not defined. So this is one thing that you will see very often in this course, browser debugging console. So you can start this one up by pressing F12 in Chrome. I think the key for starting it up in other browsers is the same. They are more or less comparable, but in this class I will use Chrome. It's my personal favorite, but you can do most of the things in other browsers as well. So here it gives you this nice warning that I is undefined, and yes, because I am using, usually my for loops have this I as a variable name, but using those small, short variable names that don't have a meaning sometimes is not a good idea. Sometimes it can be a good idea, but if the variable names have proper names, then that's what you're aiming at. Now I'm going to refresh the page, and I get a lot of things. I get many different things, and if I refresh again, one of the things is different. It's this timestamp. So this is the only thing that changes. Other than that, everything else seems to be the same. Now what I want to attract your attention to is these alpha, beta, and gamma values. They will be telling if my phone is rotating this way, or if my phone is rotating this way, or if my phone is rotating this way. So basically each of those different values are going to tell me the axis in which the phone is being rotated. All of them are null because I'm using my laptop at the moment to access this page. Okay, so my laptop doesn't have a gyroscope in it. If I move it like this, those values are still null. But what I have here is I'm sharing the screen from my phone through TeamViewer. I hope that you can see this in Kuopio.
Yes.
Okay, great. And I'm already in this page, but I have to refresh it now. Okay, so now I'm refreshing it, and those values are not null anymore. They are pretty crazy. So they are changing somehow when I'm moving the phone, but it's kind of hard to really understand how it's changing. So I'm going to go back to my code, and I'm going to write a better output for this so that you understand it a little better. And I'm going to present you another element from this HTML5, and that is the canvas element. Canvas element is a space where you can draw things on. So we will use this kind of space to somehow draw an output that better reflects what is happening with my angles here. Let's call this canvas output. And in HTML you have this way of commenting things, so I'm not going to use my div anymore. For the output, I'm just going to use this new canvas output. Right, and here in the handle orientation, I'm going to comment. Yeah, I'm going to comment this code, or better yet, because we don't like comments when writing code. So simple output I'm going to make a new function. This function will take the event and the div, okay, the output container, and I'm just going to paste this whole thing in there. And basically, if I call here simple output of event and output, the program should still work the same as before. And I'm just going to comment out this simple output, and I'm going to make a new function called better output. So I'm trying to visualize better these angles here with a new function that will use this canvas. So this better output again is going to work now with the canvas element. So I'm going to have to address it here. And it was canvas output, the name, the ID that I gave it there. And the better output function is just, okay, it's just going to take the same things, but it's going to display them a little differently. So first thing what I want to do here is I want to make this canvas the size of the entire screen. So this should do it for the width, and that should do it for the height. Now, bear with me for a moment. This context is a property of the canvas, and we will use it to draw elements on the canvas. And we want to draw a ball. So my goal is to draw a ball, and this ball is going to move depending on how I move my phone. So it's going to be a better visualization. And this ball is going to have a radius, and I like to have everything relative here. So the size of the ball is going to have to do with the size of the screen. If you have a huge screen, I don't want a small ball there. So this is called adaptive layout, and you want to have something that looks good on any kind of screen size. So the radius here, I'm going to select it as the minimum of the canvas width and canvas height. So some screens have very different aspect ratio, and I'm going to divide that by 10. So it's going to be basically 10 times smaller than the size of the screen. And where to put it? So now this is the question. Where to put this, this ball? Well, I like to define a location for this ball, and I'm going to say that this location is going to be, the x is going to be the canvas width divided by 2. Okay, it's comma there, and canvas height divided by 2. This is going to mean the middle of the screen. Okay, so I just draw a ball in the middle of the screen. And to draw it, you have to use this context element. So
by the way, you have a typo in the
can you tell me where it is?
just scroll up, please. It's the math name case.
Line number 31.
Just where the cursor there.
Thank you. This will save a lot of time. Okay. Yeah, so I will explain what these functions that I write here now are doing, because they are way too complicated than they should be, but sometimes raw JavaScript is like that. So I strongly recommend using some more advanced libraries if you're building some complicated projects, but and also because they help a lot with compatibility of the application. But anyway, so what this says is that it's going to start to draw the circle, and it's going to draw a complete circle at the location that I give it. Currently it's the center of the screen. Complete circle means that it's from 0 degrees until 360 degrees, but this is in radians, so it's 2 pi. You can just copy it like this, and if you're interested in drawing things in HTML, then you can play with that later. But let's save this file and try to refresh this, and I'm getting errors here. So now I'm seeing that the problem is in better output. Canvas is not defined. So yes, because I sent here the value of the canvas, but here I named it output. So I think it's a better idea to call it canvas, because you know what kind of object you're dealing with. So same goes here, simple output, this should be a div, because you know it's going to be a div there. This doesn't matter here necessarily. But yeah, it makes the code easier to understand. Okay, so I refreshed it, and the ball is there. It's in the middle of the screen. Okay, but I want it to move somehow. So this code just keeps the location always at the middle of the screen. I'm going to call this location 0, and I'm going to have a new location that is going to be relative to location 0, but it's going to depend a little bit on the angles from detected from the phone sensors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say the x is going to be location 0 dot x. So I'm not going to move it horizontally, but on the y axis I'm going to say location 0 dot y plus, and now this is something we probably have to experiment with a little bit, but let's see how it goes. So I'm going to take the event, let's take the beta value, and maybe I multiply it by some. Okay, let's just leave it like that and see what happens. So the x is going to be stationary, but the y is going to change according to something here. If I refresh here the page, nothing happens because it's the laptop. But let's see what happens on the screen here. So, okay. Yeah, so the circle is there, and it's moving a little bit, but it's actually not moving by much. So that's what I wanted to say by experiment a little bit. I'm going to multiply this value maybe by 3, and I'm going to do the same. Okay, probably I should have changed my wallpaper. But yeah, okay, so what this means is if the phone, oh, damn it. If the phone is going to be flat like this, the ball is going to be in the middle. But if I'm going to move Okay, maybe I should have put a minus there, but it doesn't matter, you get the idea. But if I'm going to rotate the phone in this axis, then this is the value for, this is beta. And the same thing other way around. If I'm going to rotate the phone even more downwards, then this is again the value for beta, but it's going to be negative, I think. Anyway, I don't really like to read technical info about how these values are changing. I like to experiment and try by myself. So I recommend you do the same. You can take this code and do whatever you want with it. I was thinking that the interesting idea for a project would be to have something like a 3D mouse or some kind of way to interact with something else just by moving your phone, or maybe drawing in midair, or I don't know, something that you find interesting. This is also how those games work, where you maybe steer your car by moving the phone left and right. So basically, this is just an input, and you can use it to do anything you want.